Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to our schedule release live stream. Your New York Giants 2025-2026 schedule is now complete and official. So we know not only who the Giants will play, but when they will play them. We're going to go through some of my thoughts on the 2025 schedule here. Please, if you have comments, if you have questions, anything about the schedule that you want to discuss, drop it in the comments and I'll try to get to it here over the next few minutes. Not sure how long we're going to go, how long we're going to talk here. We'll see if we get some involvement from you guys, but I did want to go over just a few things about the schedule in the event that you haven't seen it. Here is your 2025 Giants schedule. Week 1 at the Washington Commanders. Week 2 at the Dallas Cowboys. Week 3 home on Sunday Night Football for the home opener against none other than the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. Week 4 at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. Week 5 on the road against the New Orleans Saints. Week 6 on the road, or at home, against the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football. And incidentally, at a quick glance, this is probably the game on the schedule that I hate the absolute most. The Eagles on a short week on Thursday Night Football. Tough assignment. Week 7 for the Giants away against the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson revenge game. If, of course, Russ is still the Giants' starting quarterback by week 7. Week 8 on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. 2 games against the Eagles in 3 weeks in the middle of the season. Again, not an easy assignment for your New York Giants. Week 9 at home against the San Francisco 49ers. Week 10 on the road against the Chicago Bears. Week 11 at home against the Packers. Week 12 on the road against the Detroit Lions, who were 15-2 a season ago. Week 13, another primetime game for the Giants. Monday Night Football in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. Week 14 is their bye. Week 15 at home against the Commanders. Week 16 at home against J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. Week 17 on the road in Las Vegas against the Raiders in between Christmas and New Year's. So the Giants get to spend part of their holiday in Las Vegas. And week 18, the Giants finished the season with a home game against the Dallas Cowboys. So there it is, Giants fans. There is your schedule for the 2025-2026 season. And listen, we knew before the announcement, before the release of the games and the times, as far as when they were going to be played, we knew that the Giants were facing a tall task in 2025. If you go by opponent strength of schedule, overall record in 2024, the Giants have the most difficult schedule in all of football. I think if you also go by opponents' expected wins in 2025, I think that is still the same result. I think the Giants still have the most difficult schedule in the league. And if it's not the most difficult, it's one of the 2 or 3 most difficult. But look, all of that is on paper. We don't know, this is the middle of May. You never know by the time you get to September, October, November, December. You never know how healthy the Giants are going to be. You never know how healthy their opponent is going to be in a given week. So as much as I did it because folks at Big Blue View, because everybody loves those game-by-game predictions as soon as we can get them out. I did game-by-game predictions at Big Blue View. You can go and see all of those at bigblueview.com. And I came up with 7 and 10. Couple games in there that I have the Giants winning that maybe they wouldn't be expected to win. Couple games I have them losing where you might think they're winnable games. But I think 7 and 10 is probably the range where the Giants finish in 2025. This could be a 5-win season if things don't go well. Could be a 9-win season if things go extraordinarily well. But I think 6-7 wins, somewhere in there, is a realistic target, despite the difficulty of the 2025 schedule. This is a better Giants team on paper, should be a better Giants team than anything that they have fielded since Joe Shane and Brian Dable took over. Yes, they made the playoffs in 2022, but that was a year where a lot of things happened that sort of fell in the Giants' favor. Daniel Jones had the best year of his career. The Giants won some games that they probably shouldn't have won, probably wouldn't ordinarily have been expected to win. They win against Tennessee in week 1 on a 2-point conversion where Saquon Barkley looks to be stopped and then goes ahead and scores the 2-point conversion. They beat the Green Bay Packers. A lot of things went well for the Giants that year. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that the Giants were second best in the league in terms of winning 1-score games. I think the Minnesota Vikings, who had double-digit 1-score game victories during the regular season that year, were the only team better in 1-score games than the 2022 New York Giants. Conversely, when we talk about the 2024 Giants, that's a team that was atrocious in 1-score games. The Giants were 1-8 in 1-score games. They were 1-9 in games decided by 10 points or less. There's a 10-point loss in there to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it was week 4 maybe. But the NFL is a league where most of these games, it's designed to be decided close and late. Most of these games are 1-score games when you get down to 6-7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Most of these games swing on 3, 4, 5, 6 plays. The reality of it was a year ago, the Giants didn't make those plays. A lot of that was quarterback driven, of course, with Daniel Jones and then going through, Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. The Giants are better at quarterback in 2025. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston are better than Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock. Then, of course, you have the wild card of first-round pick Jackson Dart and when he will play and how he will play if and when he does get that opportunity. But if you purely look at the 1-score games, quarterback play made a difference in several of those. There was the weirdness of losing Graham Gano in week 2, right before, on the opening kickoff. And then, nearly winning that game anyway, or being in position to win that game, except for having Malik Neighbors drop a pass that would have put them in position for a potential game-winning score, in the closing minute or so. You have to look at the Giants team this year with a better defense that has Abdul Carter, defense that has Darius Alexander coming out of the draft, defense that added 2 quality players in the secondary in free agency and safety, Javon Holland, cornerback Paulson Dable, added some other, veteran defensive linemen for depth purposes. So you've got a better, deeper defense. You've got better quarterback play. Second year from Malik Nabers. Cross your fingers, you'll have a healthy Andrew Thomas at left tackle. You've got the addition of Cam Skattebo, to help in the backfield with Tyrone Tracy. And, we'll see where it goes, but this is a better Giants roster. And on average, the NFL teams get into 9, 10, 11, 12 of these one-score games each and every year for the most part. The good teams, the teams that finish well, manage to win, the majority of those kinds of games. The bad teams find ways to lose them, but it's also cyclical. As I said, in 2022, everything went the Giants' way. If you take 10 games, go 5-5 in those one-score games, and you're on your way to a relatively respectable season. And I think it's possible for your New York Giants to do that with improvements on defense, with improved quarterback play. Let's talk about a couple of the things that stand out in this schedule. And again, Giants fans, if you have comments about the schedule, if you have questions about the schedule, please drop them in the comments, and I will answer what I can. If you guys have some questions, have some things that you want to talk about in relation to when the Giants play and who they play in the upcoming season. Obviously, you look at this Giants schedule, and the first thing that stands out is the first 4 games are difficult. No doubt they're difficult. On the road to open the season against the Washington Commanders. On the road week 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. Home opener on Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs, followed by a home game against the Los Angeles Chargers, another playoff team in 2024. And look, I optimistically, to be brutally honest, I have the Giants going 2-2 in that stretch. And that is optimistic. There's no doubt that the possibility exists that the Giants could go 0-4 in that stretch. That would not shock anyone, to be honest, if that happened. But I have them going 2-2. I have them beating the Dallas Cowboys in week 2, and I have them beating the Chargers at home in week 4. Now, let's go all the way back to week 1. We'll talk about that. Look, could the Giants beat the Commanders? You never know. Maybe. When you look at it, the Commanders went to the playoffs last year. They won 12 games. The Giants won 3. But both of the games that the Giants played against Washington were winnable games. We talked about those one-score games. The Giants lost 2 games to Washington by a combined total of 8 points. Maybe a healthy Graham Gano, maybe one catch by Malik Nabers helps them win one game. Maybe 1 or 2 plays helps them win the late season game, a game they lost 27-22. 8 points separated those 2 games. The Giants have now lost 15 of the last 16 games they've played to the Dallas Cowboys. But again, 2 games last year, the Giants lost by a total of 12 points. A 5-point loss in week 4, a 7-point loss on Thanksgiving Day. So, and again, 1 or 2 plays in either of those games changes the outcome. Cincinnati Bengals, a 17-7 loss. Couple of plays, bad interception by Daniel Jones in the fourth quarter. Couple of other plays here and there change the outcome of that game. But so I have the Giants 2-2, going through those first four games. But that slate is brutal. The beginning of the schedule is brutal, and if the Giants come out of that 2-2, for me, that's best case scenario. And if you want to say that I was wearing my blue colored glasses when I made that prediction, they'd be 2-2 after 4 weeks, you're entitled to do that, because I know that that's an optimistic prediction. I know that the odds makers in Las Vegas would say that the Giants would be 1-3 or 0-4 after those 4 games. Week 5, they have the New Orleans Saints. That's a winnable game situation where the Saints have questions at quarterback after the retirement of Derek Carr. So, that's a winnable game. But, as I think about this, I don't necessarily want to go through every single game and every single prediction that I made. You can check all of those at bigblueview.com. The post headline, one thought on every game and a record prediction. So please check that out. But I do want to highlight a couple of things. As I said earlier, I'm hating the week 6 game against the Eagles. Just Philadelphia, defending Super Bowl champion, on short rest. I don't like that game for the New York Giants. That's a difficult one for me. A team like the Eagles, probably more depth than the Giants, more talent than the Giants. Obviously, a team that is more used to winning, than the Giants are at this point. And I look at the schedule, and I think that might be the most difficult game for me, at least, on the entire schedule. A couple of other points. The week 7 game for the Giants in Denver is interesting because it's a Russell Wilson back to Denver game after 2, what I referred to as tumultuous years in Denver. But, the big question is, will Russell Wilson still be the quarterback by week 7? If he's playing well, if the Giants are playing well, absolutely. If they start 2-2, if they beat New Orleans in week 5 and get to 3-2, then Wilson gets a lot of rope to be the quarterback for at least a few more weeks after that. If, God forbid, if they start 0-4, Jackson Dart could be the quarterback by week 5. I wouldn't doubt that at all, and I wouldn't blame Brian Dable, for making that move at all. That is something that Big Blue View's Chris Flum covered in a post today at Big Blue View, and Chris targeted a few different points where Dart could become the starter for the Giants. Week 5 is one. Chris talks about, let's see what else he talks about in here. He talks about week 9 versus San Francisco. That's a home game. I'm not sure about that one, but we can talk about a lot of different areas with Jackson Dart. Chris also talks about week 13, the Monday night football game at the Patriots. I'm not sure I like that one. I'm not sure I like putting Dart in for his first start, on the road in a Monday night football environment. I think that's asking a lot of the young man to do that. Week 17 on the road against the Raiders is a possibility. The bye week is week 14. Commanders are week 15. Maybe that's a possibility. So it'll be interesting to see. But in my view, most likely, I feel like Jackson Dart is going to start football games for the Giants at some point in the 2025 season. The big question is how long the Giants will put that off. How long will it take Dart to really get ready, to be ready to handle the environment of the NFL? Is it after the bye week? Is it week 15 against Washington, week 16 against Minnesota? Is it one of those earlier points in the season? Is it as early as week 5? That depends on what Brian Dable and Mike Kafka and Joe Shane and the rest of the Giants see from Jackson Dart in practice in the preseason, over the next few months. But I do believe that that Jackson Dart let's just say he won't go through the entire season without playing at least a little bit of meaningful football for the Giants in 2025. I look at this schedule and you might even call they have San Francisco at home week 9, at the Bears in week 10. I certainly wouldn't call that a soft spot in the schedule. There is no soft spot in this schedule. The 49ers team that was one of the best in the NFC for years before falling off last year. Will they rebound, or will they continue to spiral and end up in a rebuild? I don't know. Will the Chicago Bears take the step forward in Caleb Williams' second year with new head coach Ben Johnson? Will they take the step forward that people are anticipating? I don't know. But I have to say, you look at the schedule, and as I said, people say, oh, that's a loss. That's a loss. That game's a loss. That game's a loss. That game's a win. And yes, I went through my predictions, but I can't go there. I can't say that's definitely a win. That's definitely a loss. There's just too many variables between now and when those games get played. But I do think that first 4-game stretch is insanely difficult for the Giants and insanely important. If they can steal a couple of wins in that, let's say, first 5 games, throw the Saints in there, and the Saints would be the quote-unquote soft landing or easy game on that schedule, and there is no easy game in the NFL. But if they can get a couple of victories out of that first 5 games, things could be okay for the Giants in 2025. And by okay, I don't mean 10 or 11 wins. I mean showing progress from the 2023 and 2024 seasons. One of the things that we need to talk about is, and it's a question that I get to the Big Blue View mailbag. It's a question that I get in the comments at Big Blue View on occasion. What does it have to look like for the Giants for Brian Dable to remain as head coach in 2026? And look, Brian Dable getting Jackson Dart is kind of like a reset for Dable and the Giants. It gives him finally the quarterback that he wants to work with from scratch. He did everything he could with Jackson, with Daniel Jones. He did everything he could with Tommy DeVito, Tyrod Taylor, Drew Lock. But Dable with the Giants has not had, quote unquote, his guy that he could mold from scratch. Now he has that with Jackson Dart. And everyone that you listen to or talk to, Todd McShay of The Ringer, outstanding draft analyst, Dan Orlovsky of ESPN, outstanding analyst who obviously played quarterback in the NFL, knows quarterback play really, really well. Jordan Palmer, quarterback coach consultant from QB Summit, who has worked with guys like Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence and Sam Darnold and Joe Burrow and countless other NFL and college quarterbacks. All of these guys are bullish on Brian Dable's ability to coach quarterbacks, his ability to coach offense and to get maximum performance out of quarterbacks and offensive players. The question for the Giants is going to be, after going 9-25 the last 2 seasons, at some point changes have to be made if there are too many losses, if there isn't enough progress shown on the field. So I get asked all the time, is there a magic number? Is there a certain number of wins? And my answer to that is generally no. I mean, obviously, if it's a 3 or 4 win season, I don't think you can bring Dable back. If it's anything other than that, if it's a 6-win season, if it's a 7-win season, a lot of it depends on what it looks like. Are the Giants competitive in games? Are they blown out as often as they were in 2024? Do they win some close games? Do they win any games that they shouldn't win, at least on paper? Do they play with more discipline? They were one of the most penalized teams in the league last year in terms of those pre-snap penalties, the kind that you just shouldn't commit, the false starts, the illegal motions, all of those kinds of things that are just silly. The biggest thing is, what does the relationship between Brian Dable and Jackson Dart look like? Does it look like those two guys have hit it off? Does it look like Brian Dable is going to be the right coach for Jackson Dart? If and when Dart gets on the field, does he show promise? Does the relationship between Dable and Dart show promise? Do you want to interrupt that? And if you do choose to interrupt that, can you find a head coach who can put the system and the organization in place and put the people in place who can help Jackson Dart, a quarterback that a new head coach and a new coaching staff would not have selected? Can you find that head coach who supports Jackson Dart, who thinks Jackson Dart can be, what Brian Dable and Joe Schoen think he can be, and who you believe can get that out of Jackson Dart? Because that is the key thing for the New York Giants for the next few years, is what happens with Jackson Dart. All right, Giants fans, that's enough of my going on about the schedule for now. As I said, I think you're probably looking at, for me, 6-7 win season. We'll see what it looks like. We'll see, unless the wheels come off, I don't think it's significantly worse than 7 wins. And unless, things go extraordinarily and unexpectedly well, I don't think it's a whole lot more than that. So Giants fans, please, check out Big Blue View, check out the schedule, check out all of our content. Going back to the rookie mini camp, going back to the draft, going forward through the summer, we'll have our summer scouting series. We'll have lots of content about Giants position groups and personnel. We'll have OTA coverage in a couple of weeks when media gets access to a couple of those practices, and then the mandatory mini camp, and then of course we'll be end of July. We'll be into training camp, and believe it or not, that'll be here before you know it. So stay with us at Big Blue View as we continue to give you as much Giants coverage as we can and get you ready for the 2025 season. Thank you as always for watching. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.